All right, welcome everybody to McGravy's Garage. We are here. It is Saturday, January 25th. We're coming at you live from the garage. My name is Pat McGravy, aka Patrick McCabe. I'm super excited because tonight we have a very special guest. He is a chemical engineer from the great state of California. He has also owned a number of different sailboats in his life. I think he's up to his third. He's actually lived on a sailboat for a number of years in the San Francisco Bay Area. And he's like a brother to me. And actually, he is my brother. He is the one and only Mr. Adam McGravy. Adam McGravy, welcome to McGravy's Garage.
Yes, thank you, Patrick. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so tell me, where are you coming at us from? You look like you're in some sort of kitchenette situation.
Yeah, I'm in an apartment in San Anselmo, California.
San Anselmo. Now, is that Marin County?
That's Marin County. Yeah. In fact, this is the town that George Lucas was living in when he wrote Star Wars and Indiana Jones.
No kidding. I have heard of those films. Those are big films.
Yeah, yeah, they are. Yeah.
Now, I have to warn everybody, our viewers, well, a couple of things. First of all, I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, so I apologize if I come across a little confused or more confused than usual. I'm struggling through a little bit of a cold. My son actually came down with something called fifth disease, which I don't know if you've ever heard of fifth disease.
I have not. No.
You know, I don't know if it was like the fifth disease that was ever discovered or if it was a Dr. Fifth who maybe made the initial diagnosis, but it's not great. They also call it slapped cheek syndrome. And so I normally have a very ruddy complexion anyway. And, but this disease actually gives you like a real flushed look. You get a runny nose. It's really not that pleasant. He's in daycare. He's quite young. So it's just one of those things, these diseases, they kind of get passed around amongst all the children and then they take them home and then the parents end up getting sick, which is what happened with me. But unfortunately, I am feeling a little bit under the weather, so I apologize. The other thing is that I'm running this off of a fairly low-powered computer, and I'm getting all sorts of warning messages that I'm taxing my system resources. So apologies to our 8 viewers at the moment. If the audio quality is not good, that's on me, and I apologize. We'll have to look at the playback after the broadcast is complete, and see if we can diagnose maybe some of what was going on. But listen, I've done a lot of talking here at the outset. But Adam, I think you were talking a little bit about San Anselmo, California.
Yeah, I think I pretty much said everything I know about San Anselmo.
Is it a lovely town, a lovely kind of bedroom community for the San Francisco metro area?
Yeah, it's like I'd say it's like a sort of the upper middle class suburban community in Marin County.
Awesome. Well, that's great.
Yeah,
Not too far from wine country up there.
that's right. It's about 40 minutes drive to Napa from here.
Okay, Napa, which is, as we all know, kind of home of a number of famous vineyards, sort of the wine region of not just California, but really, I'd say all of kind of North America, Napa Valley.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Excellent. Have you been up there yourself?
Oh yeah. I go to Napa. It's a nice drive. Have you been?
I've never been. No, I've actually only been to San Francisco, I think twice in my life, and once to the city, and then once I flew into San Francisco, and my then fiance, now wife, we took a drive down to Big Sur. I think actually you may have come to visit us down in Big Sur with our cousin Philip when we were there a couple of years ago.
That's right. That's correct. Yeah. That
I'd
was
love
nice.
to hear in the chat. I don't know if anybody's following this, if they're experiencing these audio issues that we are, if everything's coming through nice and crystal clear. Hopefully that is the case. But for me, Adam is sounding a little choppy, but hopefully that's just on my side.
Uh, I'm seeing a comment from one Philip Mattini who said audio is coming in just fine. Everyone's complexion looks great. So
Oh, that's
that's
great.
good
And
to
actually,
hear.
I think this Philip Mattini, I don't know if that's his real name or just the handle that he goes by on YouTube. But I think he may have also come to Big Sur with us when we were out there a few years ago. So he's an old friend of the channel and definitely a great guy all around. Maybe we'll have him on McGravy's Garage in a future episode. I think that would be a lot of fun.
I think you should. I know you do a lot of work with drones and drone wars, and
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Drone Wars. Actually, I wasn't going to bring it up, but that is my web series. It's available exclusively on the McGravy's Garage YouTube channel, which hopefully, everybody who's watching this broadcast right now, obviously they know what McGravy's Garage is, but they may not know about the Drone Wars web series. Now, we are on episode 2, but we also have a related podcast where we kind of break down the latest developments in the Drone Wars saga called Drone Wars Debrief. We only have one episode of that, but that's also available on our YouTube channel. It was a really fascinating conversation in the most recent debrief we had with Billy Coyne, who is a special effects makeup artist extraordinaire from the Boston area. But he was also the general in episode 2 of Drone Wars. And Drone Wars, since you asked, Adam, and I'm glad you did, it's sort of set in a post-apocalyptic kind of dystopian America circa 2039. And it's after the devastating events of the drone wars that took place in the early 2030s. And it's really about the aftermath and the fallout from that, awful conflagration that happened globally. But it's not so much about the war, it's about the aftermath. And I think that's really what's so powerful about it.
So, yeah, I think Philip would be a great guest.
Absolutely. Maybe we can get him on. Maybe we can get him on McGravy's Garage. I think that would be really spectacular. I mean, what I would love to do eventually is have all of you come to the actual garage, which I'm here. This is not an AI generated backdrop. This is not some kind of like Hollywood set. This is my actual garage, and I think that authenticity is really is important this day and age, because I think people can start to see through. There's a lot of kind of AI generated. They call it slop online, and that's not what we're about here at the garage. Our tagline is human generated content, and that is what this is. I mean, you're watching two humans. We are really brothers. We are really talking here live, and we don't subscribe to any of that kind of sort of computer generated kind of thing here. This is all real. This is happening real time. And you know what? We might mess up. We might say the wrong thing. We might be at a loss for words. It happens. But at least what you're seeing is real and it's authentic. And what you see is what you get. WYSIWYG, as we like to say.
That's right.
All right. Well, listen, I know we have some kind of special content here that you sent over kind of right before we went live here. So I've glanced at this content, but I don't really have a very good idea of what it is. And even after I looked at it, I was still a little bit confused. So maybe what I'll do is I'll try to pull this up, and let me see if I can get this. I have a whole control system here set up. It's the software called OBS, which is actually really kind of amazing software. But I'm going to see if I can transition over. Okay, here we go. Okay. Hopefully that's coming through for everybody. So this is the first video that Adam sent me. And I'm just going to go ahead and hit play on it. I don't know if we have audio, but there's really not much to it, I don't think. But here we go. So Adam, maybe you can tell us a little bit about what we're seeing here.
This is a cup of milk.
Yeah. So this is a video from
let me ask you one question.
2020, and it was filmed on a Sunday night, and I was drinking a glass of milk and eating a frozen pizza at my desk, and I was recording some video because I thought it might make for good content in the future someday, and obviously it has. So
yeah, I mean, wow, that's great. And so is this video on YouTube? Do you have a YouTube channel? Like if our viewers want to check it out, is there somewhere that they can see it, or is this like from your private collection?
Yeah, this is still in the private collection. So I do have a YouTube channel. It's called ReviewTube, and we the plan is we'll be reviewing other people's YouTube channels, but it's still in the works. I just released my first video back in 2020, and I think I've published two other.
Okay, so I mean, you're really just getting started. I mean, only back in 2020. I mean, that was only 5 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I've been pretty busy. But I do have 3 videos out, and then obviously I've got some more footage that has yet to be edited into new videos. So expect those sometime soon. But yeah,
it took me 2 years to shoot and edit episode 2 of Drone Wars, and I mean, there were, we have like a legion of fans, and they were clamoring for the latest installment. But I think sometimes, we live in a culture where things are expected to come really quickly, but sometimes it just takes time. Perfection is not achieved overnight. And so, you know, if it takes you 2, 3, 4, 5 years to post your next video, I think that's totally fine.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I want to like put out good quality content, so I'm not trying to just push things out the door.
So we do have a comment in the chat from Peggy McCabe. I don't know if that's her real name. That might just be her username on YouTube. But she said, I think sounds like she has some experience with Fifth's disease. So it was a new one to me, but it's definitely out there. So beware. It's not fun. And she said, by the way, Adam is definitely breaking up, so that's unfortunate.
Yeah,
we'll have to look into those audio issues. Like I said, I have a pretty low-powered computer that I'm sort of running this whole setup off of, so it could very well be on my end here that's causing that. So if it is, my apologies. I know Adam is also, he does not have Wi-Fi at his house. He relies on a cell phone kind of cell network hotspot. So that could also be an issue here. But listen, we're just figuring this out as we go. This is only episode 2 of McGravy's Garage. And so these are the types of growing pains, I think, that are, definitely the type of thing that, are to be expected when you're just trying to launch something. So, Adam, hopefully those audio issues will clear up on your end. But if not, we'll just kind of keep powering through.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% convinced they are on my end, Patrick, but I hope they clear up for sure. Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely. I mean, who's to say? We may never know. Yeah. But we're going to keep on trucking. Philip Mattini says, if you like McGravy's Garage, you will love ReviewTube. So
yeah, maybe, Patrick, maybe we can post a link in the comments or something like that.
Yeah, I think we can put a link down below in the description, maybe after we end this live feed here, and people can check it out. I don't really want people leaving the live stream to go check out your YouTube channel while we're live here from the garage.
Right.
That wouldn't be great. So I think let me see what else we can pull up here, because I know it wasn't just that one video that you sent that you haven't, that was a sneak preview. That's not live on YouTube. So you saw it here first on the garage. So hopefully everybody's excited about that. But I think we have a few other videos here that maybe we can see what's going on. So let's see. Oh, okay. Yeah, we do. Okay. This looks like one of the old 14-second videos. I'm going to transition over and we'll hit play on this one. So Adam, what are we seeing here?
Yeah. So this is a video from inside my boat that I lived on, Exodus. And it's really just a 14-second video from inside the boat. You can see I got a fan set up there, a cooler. That's right. Yep. Yeah, I lived in this boat for 2 years, off and on. I'd say I probably spent a total of about 14 months living on that boat.
Okay. And maybe you could tell a little bit of the story behind that. Like, how did that come about?
Well, I actually do mention this story on my own YouTube channel, ReviewTube. So if you get a chance, do check it out. But basically, there was a time when I was living in a studio apartment, a very small studio in San Francisco, and I just kind of felt like I needed more space. I wanted to be out in nature more. And I was kind of looking through Craigslist, airplanes and at boats, and I saw an ad that said tired of paying rent. And I was tired of paying rent. It was, it's very expensive to live in the city. So I bought the boat and I moved on board. Yeah, and the rest is kind of history. I lived down there for 2 years.
I will say your audio does sound a little better when you lean into the computer. So I would say maybe try to lean in and talk right into the mic, and let's see if that helps. But that's a really crazy story. So this is a view, I assume, looking aft from the saloon of your boat. I think we can see the steering wheel or the wheel, I guess, kind of in the back there. So that's the the stern that we're looking towards. And it actually looks fairly spacious. Did you say it was a 32-footer?
No, Patrick, it's a 35-footer. It was a 35-foot Erickson, an Erickson 35.
An Erickson 35 and what was the year?
Yeah, it was a 1972 Erickson 35. She was a great boat. I mean, I lived on her, like I said, for 2 years and never sank. It almost sank one time. I was in Italy for work, and My neighbor called me and said it was sitting pretty low in the water. It was about 1.5 feet below the water line. Luckily, my neighbors, who are drug addicts who live right next door, were able to cut the lock and get in there and pump it out for me. They did steal my generator, but they saved the boat from sinking. But other than that, it pretty much stayed afloat the whole time, which is great. Because when I first moved on, on the boat.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Please keep going.
No, it's fine. Yeah, it was just when I first moved on, it was sort of like I think my biggest concern, my biggest fear, really was that I was going to fall asleep and then drown in my sleep because the boat sank in the middle of the night. So that never happened, which is great.
Yeah, no, I mean, that would be kind of a nightmare, I would imagine. Sort of the worst case scenario if you live on a boat.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But yeah, I don't know if this is like a good time to tell the story, but I told you about the time I fell off the boat one time at night.
Well, you've told me, but I don't know if our viewers know this story.
Yeah, this is exclusive, and I don't know. Like, I feel like it was a harrowing experience, and I might as well tell the story since I've already sort of teed it up. Huh? So, I was a bachelor living on the boat, and actually, should I tell the story?
Well, I know our mother was watching. We did have, I think, 12 viewers at one point. We're down to 6, so I don't know if our mom is still watching or not. But I don't think she's heard this story, so maybe this will be the first time she's heard it. So why don't you just tell it? I mean, I think it's entertaining.
Yeah, there was a.
I think we are dealing with some audio issues here, which is unfortunate because I think we might have to redo this episode again, or redo another. Have you on again, basically, to tell some of these stories because they are great and. I would hate for them to get lost in kind of a choppy audio situation, but I'd say give it a go. Why don't you just tell the story? Because it's really quite interesting and I think speaks to some of the dangers that are inherent in, living aboard a boat and drinking some beers. So, please go ahead. Tell the story.
Well, yeah, and I will tell the story. And I understand my audio is breaking up. Maybe after this story, we can just pivot more towards, you leading the conversation, and I'll just sort of act as a color commentary. But I will say that I wasn't drinking that many beers. And this is a common misconception, I think, of people, who hear the story and even they retell it at times. I only had 2 beers, which isn't really that many beers when you think about it. I had 2 beers, and I ate a sleeve of Oreo cookies and a bag of jalapeno potato chips, and decided to call it a night. And I woke up in the middle of the night not feeling very well. I mean, I felt quite sick, actually. Maybe because of the motion of the boat, maybe because of the dinner that I had. But I woke up in the middle of the night, and I just felt like I was going to throw up. So I decided to go up on deck to get some fresh air, and if I was going to, throw up, to do it over the side of the boat. Anyways, I actually ended up falling asleep because it was very nice having that fresh, cool air in my face. And then I had this sort of dream that I was like underwater and swimming. And then I emerged from the surface, like from underneath the water, and breached the surface and took a deep breath. And it turns out that I had fallen asleep and fallen into the ocean, and involuntarily swam back to the surface and took a deep breath and then woke back up. It was crazy. It was really like a wild event in my life. It's probably the second closest I've ever come to dying. So,
what was the first closest?
That was when I was driving across country when I was 18. In Wyoming, I was heading down a mountain, and it had been snowing for a couple of hours, and I was driving a 1988 Chevy Blazer with bald tires, and the anti-lock brakes didn't work. They would just seize up instantly as soon as you tapped on the brake. And so as soon as I tapped on the brake, I started skidding, and I skidded into the median, which was covered in snow. And so I directed my car back into the highway to try and prevent myself from getting stuck, because I was like many, many dozens of miles from any town. And I slid right in between 2 tractor trailers. But I came very close to getting hit at that point in time. So anyway, 2 near-death experiences there for you.
Wow.
For McGravy
Well,
Garage.
That's something. I had a near-death experience in Nova Scotia once. I was quite young, and as some of our viewers may know, we used to vacation up there in the summertime. and there was a boat that actually you had built with a good friend of ours named Jacques, and I took it out kind of solo one day on a lake that was right by the house that we would stay at, and towards the other end of the lake, there's a it sort of turns into a river, and there's a bridge that crosses the river. And so I, in my youth, my youthful folly, I was sort of rowing towards it. I figured I'd go check it out. And but what I realized is the current was quite strong, and as I got closer and closer, the current started pulling me towards the mouth of this river, where there was this bridge, this very low wooden bridge. And I would say there was probably only at the time, I don't know if there had been flooding recently or perhaps heavy rains in the rainy season, but there was maybe only about 8 inches of clearance between the bottom of the wooden bridge and sort of the water, and even less so between, I guess, the freeboard of the boat that I was on and the bottom of the bridge. And so I started rowing frantically, trying to remove myself from the situation to escape the current that was inexorably drawing me closer to the river and to the bridge. And I couldn't do it. The current was too strong and it caught me. And so at the last moment, I threw my hands up and I grabbed the underside, the side of the bridge, and I was sort of had my head back like this, and I was very close to being decapitated. And at the last possible second, I threw my hands up and I slammed my body down into the floor of the boat. And I managed to just absolutely, by the narrowest of margins, escape certain death. And I watched the underside of the bridge just whoosh above my head. And then I was off, and I was in a whole different situation. So it was just one of those moments where it happened in a relatively small amount of time. And I'm just lucky to be here today. But, those moments do make you sort of take stock and think a little bit about the precariousness of life, and how we're only here for a short, fleeting time, and really just to make the most of it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
All right, so let's see what else we have. Let's see what else we have here on the old. I guess we've been in this view of your boat for a while now. I thought we had cut. I thought we were looking at this view of you and me, but I don't think that was the case. So anyway, we'll cut back to this view. So you have a nice big talking head shot of Pat and Adam McGravy. And then I think we can, actually, let me see what I can do here. Let me see if I can pull up the next clip. I'm not actually even sure. Oh, we're up to 10 viewers, so we are into double digits. I don't know how many of those are our friends and family. It sounds like all of them. But perhaps we can see what else we have here. Oh, okay. We've got another video. I'm going to bring this one up, and then we can talk about this one here. So what are we looking at here, Adam?
Well, this looks like this would be what the starboard settee in the boat. Okay, this is kind of just like a tour of the boat. Yeah, I kind of show. That's where I was sleeping. That was the galley, or the little saloon table that sort of folded down to a bed. There's the chart table. This is the cockpit, and then I'm kind of showing the boat situation was that it wasn't in a marina. It was in it was anchored. I was anchored out about a fifth of a mile into the bay in San Francisco. So I had to take a dinghy in and out to get to land every day.
Richardson's Bay, I believe, was where it was anchored. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, Richardson's Bay is sort of like a little offshoot of San Francisco Bay, between Sausalito and Tiburon.
And, as I understand it, fairly controversial within the sort of Bay Area community. There's a lot of, you had mentioned that you acquired your boat via an ad on Craigslist, but there's quite a few individuals who live on boats that are just anchored out in Richardson's Bay who, I would say, because there's actually quite a lot of very expensive real estate in that area on the shore. But I think, the population of people who were kind of living full time on some of those boats, perhaps there was a little bit of a socioeconomic disparity between the people on the boats and the people on the shore. And from what I understand, and I hope I'm not touching on a sensitive topic here, but I know there was a little bit of tension between those two groups, and kind of maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's true. There was quite a bit of tension. The people, the taxpayers and the residents of the surrounding communities, felt that the homeless and jobless people living on their boats in Richardson's Bay were sort of a bit of an eyesore and maybe added a undesirable element to their community, which, I think there's also a sort of a phrase that's commonly used in Sausalito called keep Sausalito salty. And it's because, Sausalito does have sort of a certain saltiness to it. And it's really because of the community of people that live on their boats out there. And they have been doing so since the 60s, really since the end of the Vietnam War. It originated, from a bunch of returning veterans from the Vietnam War who were sort of more artistic and looking for a alternative lifestyle, maybe living on boats. And I don't know what they would do. They end up fighting the police at times, but I think they did a lot of artwork, and I don't really want to speculate too much about what they were doing on their boats, but it was an alternative lifestyle, I suppose you'd say, and didn't really vibe well with the local authorities. And so there were these things called the houseboat wars that occurred back in the 70s. And so the anchor outs and the houseboat people would fight, actually get into physical altercations with the police department in Sausalito. And so really since then, there's been a lot of friction between those two parties. And it seems like now that, the authorities and the people, the taxpayers living on land, are starting to gain the upper hand. So there was actually some money put into a fund recently. And so the city of Sausalito is purchasing boats from the anchor outs. They're purchasing the boats from them. So I actually recently sold Exodus myself back to the city. And so I no longer own Exodus. But, when I first moved out to the boat, there were 200 boats anchored out, people living on them. And now there's maybe 24 left. So it's a sort of a disappearing community.
Yeah, interesting to hear that you were kind of, you were faced with that choice of kind of trying to make a stand or just sort of cut your losses, as it were, or not even your losses, but just kind of take the deal and kind of move on, which I think, everybody has to make that choice, but it sounds like for you, it was maybe the right choice at the right time.
I think it was, yeah.
Jacques Doucette from Nova Scotia says, your boat looks like a mess.
Yeah, that's true. It kind of was a bit of a mess.
But I think what people don't always understand is that, I was fortunate enough to come out to San Francisco and to stay on your boat for an evening or two. And I was struck by the fact that, when you're living on a boat, there's not a ton of space. You're kind of just, you have a very limited amount of space where you can store all of your clothing, all of your material possessions. I know you did have a small dinghy that you would use to transport, yourself and your goods and whatnot, your possessions back and forth. But even when you picked me up from the airport, I think you had quite a few clothes like in your car because you just didn't have that much space on the boat. So, I know there's been a trend in recent years towards kind of tiny living and small houses and that sort of thing. And a boat's probably not too much different than that. But I'd imagine it's a challenge when you have a limited amount of space to work with. And, you probably, I'd imagine, had to kind of pare down your worldly possessions to just the sort of essentials. For instance, I remember when I went to brush my teeth, when I was staying on your boat, and I said, Adam, where's the water so I can rinse my mouth? And you said, oh, I actually just have this spray bottle and I use it to spray down my toothbrush. And that's the water that I use to brush my teeth with. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that. Just, I think what I'm trying to say is that it may be a mess, but, there's probably reasons why that was the case.
Yeah, it's interesting because it feels like you spend all of your free time cleaning and organizing and scrubbing and washing and varnishing things, and it's still not quite ever enough. But yeah, you're right. Like, and for example, I have no running water out there, obviously, and so like, in order to brush your teeth or whatever, you had to. So actually, our sister Chelsea had a great idea. I don't know where she picked it up from, but I think she had heard that other people live on boats do this. But yeah, if you use a spray bottle maybe it takes 5 sprays to rinse your toothbrush, and you only use a couple of ounces of water that way, as opposed to when you dump a gallon of water over your toothbrush to rinse it, you're gonna lose a cup or more compromises to try and reduce your waste as much as possible. So
absolutely, absolutely. All right, well, let's see what else we have. Let's see what else we have here in terms of these video clips. And I know we're up to 11 viewers, so we're well into double digits here. This is very exciting stuff. I think we're all appreciating this kind of unique insight into just what it's like to be living out on a boat and that kind of lifestyle, and really just kind of also just having a nice conversation here on a Saturday night. Actually, this might be a good opportunity, Adam. We did say that we'd have a little bit of a segment, kind of what are we enjoying tonight, beverage wise. And listen, I don't want to, glorify or promote any kind of, alcohol consumption lifestyle. I think to each their own. That's something that I've always believed. But I will say this for myself this evening. I have been enjoying a lovely red wine. It is Oyster Bay, which is a local, Oyster Bay is a Long Island community. I live in southwestern Connecticut, but Oyster Bay is just across Long Island Sound. Certainly not Napa Valley quality vineyards, but very good, lovely red here. Pinot Noir, I believe. So that's what I'm drinking. And Adam, I see you look to be drinking a beer, perhaps a lager or a Pilsner.
It is a lager, as a matter of fact. It's a San Rafael lager. Let's see if we can hold it up to the camera. There we go. So yeah, likewise, it's a local beer, local brewery. It's maybe 1 mile down the street from my house, and they make a nice lager. So I drink it sometimes. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, well let's take a look. I think we have another clip here. This is from Adam's private stash of videos. I think a lot of these have never been seen before. So I'm going to hit play here, and why don't you tell us what we're looking at?
Yeah, here we're looking at a lot of birds that were flying by the boat. I woke up one morning and I heard a noise by, and popped my head out the companionway hatch, and it turns out there were just many thousands of birds flying by. And so I took a video of it, and you can see here the birds just flying by, flying by the boat. I mean, there's just so many of them. It was quite something to observe. And so I thought it might be interesting to watch and discuss someday in the future. And
here we are. I must say, Adam, I think I have a bad feeling that our audio issues are continuing here, and so I do appreciate all of our dozens of viewers, or a dozen viewers, who are sticking with us through all of this. Jacques says, it must have been an amazing experience to live on a boat in San Francisco Bay. Thank you for sharing your experience. And then it says Anne. So I don't know if that's Anne saying that or Jacques, but or perhaps both of them. But I agree. Very, very interesting stuff. Sounds like something somebody would say when they're about to click off of the live stream, but nonetheless, a nice sentiment, and I certainly appreciate it.
Well, we're holding steady at 11 viewers, I think.
Yeah, and I'm wondering too, I don't know if I had just restarted my computer before we started this, if that would have helped, or maybe I need to get my more diesel computer out here in the garage and figure something else out, because we do have a lot of different video feeds coming through. I might be able to try something. I don't know if this would help or not, but I wonder if I disable. Let me just try something here. So I just shut off the video feed the live shot of the garage that's running behind us, and I wonder if that might help, because I think that was fairly system intensive. So we'll see. I'm also curious if the audio, I'm hearing quite choppy audio from through my monitor here, but it's possible that on the actual live stream maybe it's not quite so bad. So we'll find out. But all right, now I think we do have a countdown. Adam's channel is ReviewTube, and I don't want to speak to exactly what that channel is all about. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that more. But we do have a an opportunity later in the show where we're going to talk a little bit about some YouTube channels and I guess sort of review them. And so I think whether or not that's, that was the intention behind your channel, I think we'll get to do that. And I think our viewers are going to be really excited because we have some really great channels to review here. So that's going to be exciting. But we do have a couple more clips from Adam that have never seen the light of day. These are brand new clips. Folks have not seen these. They have not been made public. And I have not even seen them. I mean, I've just seen them just today. So, this is quite nice. I think we have some sort of sunrise or sunset situation.
That's right. This video actually has been released in the past. This is a post that I published on Instagram a few years back. So it's not a McGravy Garage exclusive, but still a great video, I think. Yeah, what you're seeing here is just me waking up in the morning, sticking my head out the hatch and just seeing a beautiful sunrise. And so I grabbed my camera and, took some video. So let's give it a watch.
It certainly looks beautiful.
It really was. You can see here these two birds fly up from in between those two neighbor boats. There they go. What a sunrise.
Very nice.
Yeah,
Very
San Francisco Bay, man. It is nice. It is nice at sunset and at sunrise. It's beautiful when you're living out there. So I can share this with everybody.
All right, let me just see. I think we have one more video, and then I think we can proceed on to the next section of the show. But let's see if I can pull this up real quick here. Ooh, another what appears to be sunrise or sunset. Quite beautiful. Sort of purple and yellow hues. Very nice.
Yeah, this is an example of a sunset. And, I would sit on the cockpit of the boat, just eating dinner, and this would kind of be my view every night. It was great.
I mean, you can't beat it. And what did you pay? You paid nothing for rent. This was just, you bought this boat for whatever you paid for it. I want to say less than 10 grand, right? And or less. And you had this view every day.
Yeah, $7,300 I paid for the boat. Like I said, lived out there for almost 2 years rent free, and I got to see this every single night while eating dinner for the most part. I mean, it's not all glamorous. There was a lot of really bad weather as well. The weather seems to kind of influence your life a lot more than it does when you're living in a house, for example. So yeah, when it's cold and rainy and dark, it makes things more difficult and uncomfortable. But there's also these magnificent moments while you're, eating dinner outside and just enjoying the nature and the beauty. So.
And actually, I believe there's a funny story. Philip, who is a fan of the channel and has commented here on our live stream, I think there was a time where you were with him and taking him out to the boat, and a storm kicked up, and it was a little bit hairy.
Yeah, I mean, Philip and Carrie came out a couple of times to visit the boat. That's right, actually. It was Carrie and I think, on the boat.
Carrie is Philip's
wife.
Well, I don't
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
information, but Carrie and Philip know each other, and Philip is a fan of the channel, and I think Carrie, I'm sure by extension, is as well. For those who don't know, I think probably everybody who's watching this channel right now seems to be related to us, so they probably all know who that is. But just for context here. But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's great. So like we, I think I had ferried out Carrie and James, another friend of ours, and the weather started to turn south, and so I believe I brought James back first, maybe, and then I was bringing Carrie back, and it was very harrowing. I mean, the wind was howling, and it was raining, and there was, we were hitting hilarious, and was laughing the whole time. So I don't know if she understood the danger, and that was just her way of dealing with it, or maybe I was overreacting. I can't quite tell, but either way, it was a memorable experience, and we got soaked, and then we all went out for dinner and drinks afterwards. It was great.
All right. Well, I think maybe we can now move on to the next portion of the show. So I'm going to transition over here. And I think, Adam, what we wanted to do is, as somebody who's lived on a sailboat, who's owned a number of sailboats, and is also a big fan of YouTube, you watch a lot of YouTube sailing content. And what we wanted to do was have you tell our viewers your top 3 sailing YouTube channels. And so that's what we did. And this is the first one here. I'm going to hit play on this, and then maybe you can tell us a little bit about what we're seeing right here. What is your number 3 favorite YouTube sailing channel?
Yeah, this is a tough call. I don't know if I'd top third for sure. Top 3, I should say. This is Mads. The channel is called. He's on a small boat himself and did some projects. I think this guy's been YouTubing for something like 9 or 10 years now. But huge. And I think that project took about 4 or 5 years. And it was a really complete rebuild from start to finish. So like he's into a lot of detail about, for example, right here he's showing the new TIG welder he just purchased last week. He uses the equipment, the methods, and so you really learn a lot about boat repair and boat maintenance work from watching his channel. And so it's been really like I'd say a valuable resource for me as I've been working and living on boats. To be honest, Patrick, I don't know if I'd call him my number 3. He might be in my top 2, to be honest.
Okay,
but it's hard to say.
All right, top 2, not bad. All right, so I think so that was number 2. I'm gonna speed through these, and we'll go to. And I know this is also not necessarily your actual number 2, but a good channel nonetheless. That I think you introduced me to, much like all of these channels, and so I'm gonna bring it up here. And this is Sam Holmes Sailing. So Sam Holmes is a sailor, and his channel is really just him kind of sailing around the world in a pretty. I'd say, not super fancy sailboat, but he's got a really great joie de vivre and a great attitude about life, and that's kind of how he rolls. And so that's number 2 here. Whether or not it's your number 2 exactly, I'm not sure, but maybe you can just talk a little bit about old Sam Holmes.
Yeah, sure. And I know you yourself have watched some Sam Holmes as well. He's great. I mean, I think he just grabs his phone and records himself as he sails around the world. And so the first video that I really watched of Sam's was when he sailed from Los Angeles. Interesting video to watch. I recommend it if you're looking for something to consume on YouTube. But yeah, he sails all over the place. I mean, recently he was in Gambia sailing up the river. Right, Patrick, you watched that one. You saw some hippopotamus and crossings alone, solo, and he's always facing up his boat with like sort of a bubble gum and shoestring sort of approach to boat maintenance. So which is a different approach than Mads, for example, but his primary feeling, I think, whereas Mads, I think, derives more pleasure from actually working on boats, and so you get a nice little glimpse into both worlds, I think.
Absolutely. All right. Well, very cool. And I think, while we're, we'll finish this out with maybe your number 1 favorite YouTube sailing channel. Again, I don't actually even know if it is actually your number 1, but it's certainly a great one. And again, one that you introduced me to, and probably the biggest YouTuber on this list of favorites. And that is the incomparable Samson Boat Co. with Leo Goodling, I think is his name. And this guy is quite a story. He's a boat builder and a sailor, and he purchased a boat for the price of $1 called Tally-Ho, and he has spent really the last 5 or 6 years kind of restoring and refitting it. and he just recently finished that project and just recently launched the boat, and I think is now sailing around the world with it. He's on a mission to return to the UK to sail in the Fastnet race in 2027, which Tally-Ho, the boat that he rebuilt, won 100 years prior in 1927. And so really I think you described this channel as basically woodworking porn, which I think is a good way to describe it. And you can see here just some of these are a lot of shots from the early days. This boat really was in pretty bad condition. It's a wooden boat, gaff-rigged sloop or something like that. I don't know. I'm not an expert in some of these more arcane details of sailing, but it's nonetheless a really great channel, and again, one that you turned me on to. You turned me on to all these channels, actually, so maybe you can just say a word about old Samson Boat Co.
Yeah, this is like kind of my original favorite YouTube channel. I mean, regardless of the fact that it's a great sailing and boat building channel, but person, and he kind of explains what he's doing, so it's like you feel like you're following along with the rebuild the whole time. So it's a great channel whether you're into sailing or boat building or not. And actually, this was the channel. It's funny from YouTube occasionally. I think we've talked about this, and it's funny because I actually watched a couple episodes of this YouTube channel. I was conceited and just I was turned off. I just wasn't interested. Didn't watch it again for maybe 6 months, and then I think another thumbnail popped up in my feed, and I clicked on it and watched it, and I started to get it at that point. I've seen every episode, and so yeah, the guy, like you mentioned, the guy he buys a boat that's completely dilapidated and rotted through, and he rebuilds it. I mean, every single piece of wood or fabricated you can see here in the clip. So it's a great channel if you like are looking to consume some woodworking and boat building content. I think there's probably 5 years worth of videos online, so I'd recommend giving it a watch.
All right, cool. All right, well, listen, Adam, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on The Garage. This has been great. I do have, as I said, some slight suspicion that maybe the audio was not super fantastic this time around, which is probably most likely on me. So I need to, I'll watch this back, and I think if it's not something that ultimately is particularly audible or understandable for folks, maybe we'll do this again next week. But other than that, I think it's been great. I mean, I appreciate you coming on, and it's just always interesting to hear about some of these experiences that different people have had, and for sharing your top 3 YouTube sailing channels. Hopefully fans of those channels will check us out, and maybe some of many of the many fans that we have will check out some of those channels, and that's kind of what it's all about here. So I just want to give you a big thank you and say I really appreciate you coming on, and for those of you watching, if you like this type of thing, please feel free to subscribe, hit that like button. We will be going live every week. If it turns out that we had some technical issues this time around, we will fix them for next week. We have a much beefier computer that I'm confident will get the job done, and we'll get Adam McGravy back on here. But big, huge thanks, Adam. Really appreciate it. Always good to talk to you, and we'll talk again soon.
Sounds great, Patrick. Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. This was a really fun experience, so thank you.
All right, awesome. Well, that's it for us from McGravy's Garage. It's been great. Thank you guys so much, and we will see everybody again soon. Thank you so much. All right. Have a good night.